Welcome back to Sacred Success Salon, where we're having another amazing conversation with an expert on how to lead and thrive right now as an awakened leader. I am your host, Anna Kowalska, and today I am delighted to introduce you to our guest speaker, Acurda Melchizedek. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to create with you, and I've loved our creations in the past, and I can't see where this time takes us today.
I know, right? It's so great. Oh, so exciting. So those of you who don't know, Acurda was in the salon it's been probably a year and a half ago. So a lot has happened since last time we had a conversation in the salon. So I'm really excited for everything that's coming through you. So let me just introduce you quickly. The rest of the bio will be under the video, which you know. Acurda is a specialist in working with the multidimensional aspects of DNA. She teaches people to access these codes in their chronologic blueprints and recode in order to live to their highest potential. Bam. So good. So Acurda, right before we began this recording, we had a lovely discussion, and you started taking me to a place where you introduced us to this idea about elders and the place that we are now being called to. So can you take our audience back into that conversation and tell us more about that?
We have so many souls exiting this planet right now, so many elders. And to me, it feels like an appropriate time, an important time to witness this transformation and to honor our elders and our ancestors, to honor all the gifts that they've given us. Our genetics is a gift from our ancestors. I call it the master ancestor. It is the divine natural access for all of us. And so many of our elders, our teachers, our metaphysical teachers have poured into us their divine knowledge, their years, their life's work of divinity, of light in themselves. They poured that into us. And it's time to honor all of these waves that have built the consciousness on this planet, have been holding those flags of freedom for all of us through generations. And it is also important for us to have a ceremony where we acknowledge that we are becoming the elders. We are the elders now. And it feels important to go into this with consciousness, with an agreement, with an acknowledgement of the honor of the position that we have. And to speak love into our lineage, our genetics of light, to those that are coming behind us, and to pour our wisdom of light into those beings freely.
So beautiful. When you said it, and even now I feel it so powerfully in my body. The reason why it was so exciting, as soon as you said it, I'm like, oh, this is so perfect. Because we're talking about leading and thriving right now as awakened leaders. And so many are still waiting for the invitation to bring in their gifts full on to the world, right? Like still kind of skirting the issue, waiting for permission, holding on to, old ways that they created life, instead of stepping fully into, I get to be in my fullest expression at this moment, right? And when you said that, there was just this like, wow, we have an obligation, right? It's like, that's the way, at least I hear it. It's like, it's an obligation. So up until now, we've been in a conversation of it's time, let's go, right? Light workers show up, right? Earth needs us, right? Galaxies need us. And the way that you introduced it with this like reverence to, we are the elders now, because it's so true. I mean, I shared with you, I just came from a funeral of an elder, absolutely somebody who held an energy of a lineage for a very, very long time. And he was actually an activist in the community for many, many years. And I was driving yesterday thinking, because there are still things that he was working on that aren't completely closed. And I'm like, wow, who's going to take that over? And that thought landed so powerfully in my body. I'm like, somebody is going to take it over to fight for the communities, right? To fight for what he was a visionary. So when you said that, I'm like, yes, this is like, it's no longer an invitation for, hey, come do the work because the new earth is being birthed through us. Come do the work because you are the elder now.
Yeah. And here's where we get into the creation of thoughts. And when we look at these beautiful cultures that have been here many timelines, like the Egyptians and the Mayans and the Aztecs and the Sumerians, and we see these epic demonstrations of megalithic size that have lasted thousands of years. Göbekli Tepe's, hundreds of thousands of years old. And so we have to ask ourselves, what kind of consciousness created such a presence that it is still kept, it is still maintained, it's being excavated, we're sharing our knowledge, and it is also part of our liberation of understanding that other civilizations were here before us. And without that, we would be lost. We would still be thinking that's that part of science that wants us to think that we came from apes, that there were people here, that were so unintelligent, that no, they had sophistication of cosmology, mathematics, of geometrical design, of resurrection energy. I mean, and that presence is still here and we still feel it. People who go to I just spent a year in Mexico at different pyramid sites all over Mexico, and the presence, especially when you get into the places that are in the jungle that are more untouched, you can feel the energetic consciousness, the clarity of the energetic consciousness that was there. Wow. When you look at cave paintings, right, and some of them are exposed elements, we're still talking 30,000 years old, 60,000 years old. How did these people create such a thing to last out in the elements with nature, done by nature? And we don't have buildings that last 50 or 100 years.
Right.
Because at the molecular structure, they knew that they were creating for their ancestors, and it was important information to leave. And without it, we would be lost. And they created at the molecular structure the alchemy of all these elements, right, into this beingness and consciousness of a field of energy that we can still feel. We're still gathering information stuff. We're still creating with. And so we have the opportunity and the obligation to create thoughts for that of peace, of liberation, of abundance for 1,000 years or more. And we as humanity need to start thinking this way. So we have the opportunity to construct holographic information through our genetics into our field, with geometry and light through consciousness, where other people feel it, other generations that are coming up, like you said, somebody's got to take that over. It is so beautiful, so divine, such an explosion or a portrayal of divinity of humanity, that everybody who sees it has a spontaneous awakening and also wants to contribute to it, because that's what's happening there.
Yeah. Oh, this is so good, and wants to contribute to it. Can you take us on that leg? Wants to contribute to it. Yeah.
So when we see something that is so divine and so beautiful that cracks us wide open, I mean, pours tears, and whatever that has been for you, we have the opportunity to design homes, educational platforms for children, of freedom, of liberation, of peace. We have the opportunity to leave genetics that don't have fear or war, victimization.
Yeah.
And we can program them for thousands of years, 1,000 years if we want.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And those generations coming up will feel and know that they are entitled to liberation, to freedom, to happiness, to joy, to bliss, to the universal language of love.
So you know what you just shared. I hope I didn't interrupt your flow. We really get to start getting present that to this like temporariness. I just made up a word. Temporariness of our existence, yet still, because we talk about purpose in Salon, still with purpose. And that purpose right now is the foundation for what will be built on and contributed to over, who knows, hundreds of thousands of years of human experience going forward.
And I think it's also important for us to ask as elders, and as we go into our transition after being an elder into leaving this planet, this body, right? Should say this realm of existence. We have to ask ourselves, what kind of larger cycles have we participated in that are not, we don't want to participate in anymore. Yeah. And many people have felt like trappings of lifetimes as human. And we also know many of us have had experiences where we've been other dimensional beings and part of other races and other planets and other galaxies. And so how does one keep going and feel like they're being trapped in a cycle? And it's really about being a creator and stepping into the power of the creator. And when we go to leave this body, this presence, that we look back and we came here, we did something that was so epic for us that we're like, he did a fucking great job. Wow, this was great. His lifetime was amazing. Because there is an element when you cross the dimensions, you have this opportunity to create your next life, your next beingness, where you want to go, what you want to do. But if your mind is so focused on regret and loss and what you didn't create, and the love you didn't have or make here, you will come right back. You will trigger yourself back. That is a matrix. And we talk about the matrix all the time, but we are the creators of our own matrix. So people are not doing this at some level. Yes, there are some control mechanisms, but we are doing this to ourselves. And that is the place that we can stand outside of victimization into powerfulness as a creator and create something new. And we have the opportunity as elders to demonstrate such beauty and glory and magnificence that others want to listen to our stories, listen to our wisdom.
Yeah. Oh, what's coming through is invitation. What a spectacular invitation that is, Acurda. It really is just, I can feel it in my body. So one of the places that I would love for us to go is when you spoke about the elements of communication, because I feel like they're connected to exactly what you're speaking to right now, right? Yeah. And like a way that we can work with what we have that will create something different going forward, right?
Absolutely. There is a divine alchemy to how we came through as light into this body. And this last few months, my field of study and experience and resonance has been with elements. When I was working with genetics, well, I work with genetics, but I was working with a woman particularly, and what I saw was the nanotechnology that was inside of her. And this nanotechnology is an opportunity for us, because there is so much of it on the planet now, to start developing communication with different elements like hydrogen, helium, carbon, because these things are made of that, and they're made of other elements too. And if we want to offer an opportunity of transcendence, of evolution, of freedom for these types of things that have been controlled, that are used in military weaponized ways, right?
Yeah.
You're talking about nanotechnology in food and vaccines, 5G, all of it, even water, right? That we have to come to the level, or we get to come to the level of the communication with these elements and meet it in the unseen world, in the vibrational world where we are still one. So I've been giving opportunities, experiences to people where they can experience these different elements of the periodic table, so that we can start a new communication to help facilitate the transcendence, the transformation, the transmutation of this nanotechnology through our DNA, through our genetics, through this planet. I mean, it is very concerning. There is a blanket of technology, I think, that we're starting to feel. Those people who are sensitive are starting to feel what has been happening with the frequencies of so many vaccines and the metals that are in vaccines. I'm not going to go into it, and you know, everybody gets to make their beautiful choice. But for us who are sensitive, we also get to have options for the transcendence and the transmutation of that field of energy as it comes into our field of energy. And so I think it's very important for us to talk about hydrogen and understand the birth of a star. And we are stars. We are the birth of stars. And how when stars transform and transmute, that there's this radiation that happens. We keep talking about light and the light body, and where does this light come from? And part of that light comes from the radiation of stars that are traveling millions and billions of light years to us and communicating with us. And there are different colors, different frequential color spectrums of that. And they're red, and they're purple, and they're blue, and they're brown, and they're gold, and they're yellow, and they're, right? But this is the part of alchemy that when we connect to it, it gives us a bigger picture of communication of where we came from. And we keep saying that we have star family, and we have been Arcturian, and blah, blah, blah. And we came through this galaxy. And for a lot of us who are in that realm, and not everybody is there, okay? But there are rays of light that are coming from all over these galaxies that are feeding us light. And they are also our ancestors, right? And they may be our future ancestors. But when we look at a soul and how a soul gains consciousness, our density, we are that light traveling light years through space. Our consciousness is creating time, is creating gravity. And it's creating gravity in this beautiful helical shapes. You know, we've been sold this idea that Earth and the sun, and they're all spinning around each other. But what they don't tell you is that we are still moving in space. Like the Earth is not stable in one spot. All of the planets are moving and expanding towards the galaxy. And the galaxy is expanding still past that.
Yeah.
And that there is resonant light streams coming in to this field right now that are made of our hydrogen, our helium, our gold. And when we connect to those elements,
Mm-hmm.
we create consciousness with them, and we become a unified ally for love, for freedom, for liberation.
So beautiful. Oh, that was a joyful journey. And I love how you brought us back, because that was a question that was hanging there for me the whole time as you were sharing, right? There was this question that you opened us with in this talking about elements of communication. And with everything going on right now in the environment on planet Earth, like you said, in water, in food, in vaccines, in electronics, right? Like all of those elements, right, of periodic table that are being used in a way that maybe isn't necessarily for the best of the humanity. We have an opportunity to reach to the source where we were one with those elements.
We are one. Yeah.
Where we are one. I love that. Where we are one with those elements, and through our consciousness, bring them back, right? To what serves versus what. Yeah.
To the divine remembrance.
Yeah.
You have to remember that these aspects, these elements are being controlled.
Mm-hmm.
They're using carbon and as like the carbon that's our body, and they're using it and they're programming it to look like genetic structures in our RNA, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it is a disruptor because they're taking something outside of our body, they're programming it, and then they're putting it to look like our body, to look like our DNA. And then, oops, I lost you. Oh, there you are. It look like our DNA, and they mimic geometrical structures of molecules inside of our DNA, and our DNA gets confused. And it doesn't know what to do because it is not organic. And then we start having those disassociation and disruptions, the frequency disruptions in between two systems that should have been connected organically. There is a field of organic, inorganic information there that is a disruption, a distortion pattern in our genetics, in our cells, our body, in water on this planet.
Yeah.
And so we are not able at this period of time to take down all of these corporations and all of this.
Right.
But what we can do is be the super consciousness and offer these elements who do not want to be slaved, they do not want to be controlled, an opportunity for transmutation of liberation, the remembrance of the truth of who they are as part of connected divinity and God.
Oh, wow. You guys, let it settle in, because that is a powerful tool, a powerful way to not be in fight with what's going on, right? But choose to create by giving. And I love how you say it. I mean, I'm still letting it like marinate inside of me, that these elements are being enslaved, and they meant to be free and are being used in a way that they never intended to. And we have within us, within our consciousness, power and ability to freedom by returning back to divinity. Oh, this is so good, Acurda. Oh, it's just so delicious. And I love where the conversation went from. We get to claim our right as elders, and you gave us a beautiful way in working with the elements right now in a way that already starts creating the blueprint for where we're going by freeing the elements from what they're being misused for right now. So good. So good. Oh.
And also, when we talk about the Akashic record and DNA,
Mm-hmm.
and we know that there's a lineage of light here of memory,
mm-hmm.
and chromosomes actually means as like a zone of light.
Mm-hmm.
Chroma means color.
Mm-hmm.
So a zone of color, and gene is this expression of color as it gets expressed. In these are elements. They are not only something that is outside of us, but these are already in us. And we haven't made friends with them. We haven't communicated with them. And they are also part of how we're leaving genetic information for others. They are holding the stories to be passed through genetics. And it is a language of light.
Going back to, we have an obligation as elders. Yeah.
As a species, we have an obligation to think about what type of genetic lineage we want to leave behind, and to hopefully witness that we have an opportunity to leave a whole new type of genetic information.
Yeah.
It's no coincidence that we all know the double helix that looks like a ladder. Our ancestors we have climbed the ladder. Our ancestors are climbing the ladder. Our future generations will climb the ladder. And although I'm working with a triple helix now, we all know that, and it is by no coincidence that it looks like a ladder, a spiraling ladder.
Wow, so good.
It is time for us to get real about our genetic value here, and that it is conscious, and our DNA is conscious. And what we want to put into that consciousness as a seed fractal of 1,000 years of divinity, of love, of liberation, of clean food and clean water, and to start creating that inside of ourselves so that we can give it to others.
This is so inspiring and empowering. Amazing. Acurda, you have been such a gift to the salon with everything that you just shared in such a short period of time. I feel like it gives us, I look for conversations that inspire us, right? That for the future we are creating, and you definitely have delivered that. So I know you have a gift for our audience.
Yeah.
Could you tell us what it is?
Sure. So my gift is an opportunity to witness your own architecting of your DNA from the first two strands of your genetics, which are the original genetics of bases and pairs of how genetics even form. And then the second strand of DNA being the strand of our ancestors. It's our ancestral memory. And then to be able to go in there and clear and recode that strand with different spectrums of light and geometry. And I hope it's profound for people, and they have a small glimpse of what working with your DNA can offer.
So good. I'm very excited for it. And you guys know there is a button below this video. Go claim the gift. Let yourself experience this magical place that is so very real based on everything Acurda was just sharing with us. So claim the gift, get into Acurda's world. And Acurda, I have one last question for you as we part ways. What is your vision for the world that we are creating?
My vision in this now moment is to truly honor our genetics. And to open up the superconscious possibility here on this planet that we are leaving, that we can leave a lineage of light, one that's free of war, one that's free of victimization, one that is centered in love, opportunity, abundance, and that is sourced from full divinity. And that our variety of the different sound vibrations of each soul is honored in its uniqueness and its contribution to this.
So beautiful. Thank you for that. Thank you. That's a beautiful vision. Beautiful vision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. So one more time, make sure you go claim the gift, immerse yourself in Acurda's world, and begin to be the seed for the future that we are creating. Oh, amazing. Thank you. Thank you. And we'll see you at the next conversation. Bye for now.